Since the fall of man, we humans have been in search of the path of least resistance. An easier way out, the shortcut. Less pain for more reward. And nowhere has this tendency been more prevalent than with our own human health. We all know that we should be consuming more whole foods, fruits, vegetables, less junk. And yet we find ourselves at a Whataburger drive-thru, 2 in the morning, drunkenly ordering patty melts, milkshakes, maybe a couple chicken biscuits. Now, I've never done such a thing, but I'm certain you have. And that's okay, because we all get collectively that the standard American diet is indeed sad. Our nutrition is lacking. We need more omega-3s, protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals. And so what do? We take shortcuts. We look for easier ways to get these things. And nowhere in health and nutrition and supplementation is this better summarized more perfectly and succinctly than with the vitamin gummy. Gummies of the vitamin or mineral type have grown exponentially since their introduction in the late 90s. And we all know why. If someone believes that they can obtain their nutrition from candied gelatin fructose, well then, who cares if they have to consume a little bit of extra sugar to do so? Now, are we as hardworking, intelligent consumers supposed to believe that just because a company says their product will benefit our health, it actually will? Well, of course we are. Just in case though, just in case some of us are a little bit skeptical, here is the question that I would like to know as a guy in a lab who loves and makes supplements. How effective is the gummy as a nutritional transport vehicle? That's not what I said. That's not what I said. The answer, unsurprisingly, is it depends. It depends on the dose and how well the dose blends with your gelling agent, like pectin, or your sweetener, corn syrup. So, for example, if someone is trying to get more vitamin D in their diet, then a gummy can be a pretty good way to do so. A standard 3-gram gummy can easily accommodate 50 micrograms of D3 without significant compromise to the integrity of the substrate. You think that sounded smart? I think it did. But what if you're trying to consume, say, more vegetables? Is the gummy effective for that? No, it's not. The utility of this for nutrition is limited to those things which can be obtained in microdoses or which mix very well with your gelling agent, like pectin. Trying to extend this to whole foods like vegetables, it just doesn't work, at least not well. Though I do appreciate the effort. I tried this myself a few years ago and was not pleased with the results. More on that later. Back to my original point, whether or not these are sufficient to provide this. I'd rather you not take my word for it. Let me show you instead of tell you. I have here in this lab a popular greens gummy supplement, and what I would like to do is get an estimate of how many veggies are actually inside this gummy. Specifically, a serving size. All right, here's how all this unfolds. The first thing I'm gonna do is give you a little preamble on this greens gummy. What I think of it, the ingredients, my issues with it overall, providing some context on making gummies with whole foods in them, my experience. Setting the stage, if you will. The next thing I'm gonna do is actually test it. I'm going to dissolve it in solution, filter it, dry it, weigh it, evaluate it against a benchmark, so that I can give you an opinion on this gummy, whether you should buy it, what's included, and if it's worth your time. You'll have something to take away in the end, I hope. All right, does that sound good? let's get after it. Here are the greens gummies in question. And once again, this is a very popular greens gummy. However, for many reasons, I do not like to publicly name companies. However, if you want to find out who this is, it's not going to be hard. Just Google greens gummy. Maybe I'll even put a nondescript link in the video description. Now, I would like for you to take note of this label as taken and reprinted from Amazon, specifically what the company calls its core nutrient blend. These are the ingredients for which this product was made and marketed. Now, the company claims that there are 8.67 grams, 8,670 milligrams of core nutrient blend per 20 gram snack pack, with emphasis that the greens listed at the top are the most prevalent. Just some supplement industry information for you. On an ingredient label, the ingredients are supposedly listed, they're supposed to be listed in order of prevalence in the product. So the ones at the top are more prevalent than the ones at the bottom. They're supposed to be in order. This label, by the way, is incorrect. Now, here are some of my problems with this label. I just mentioned that the label is misprinted, it's out of order, specifically on Amazon. Not everywhere, and that's probably intentional, but I'm not gonna claim that. However, if you look on the Amazon label, the last ingredient is Fiber Smart. This is a highly soluble tapioca fiber and is actually a very large portion of the gummy overall. It's part of the gummy matrix. Forget the core nutrient blend. It is a major aspect of just making the gummy. It actually should be, it is the #1 ingredient in the core nutrient blend. It's not listed that way. So that's my problem. The way this is listed on Amazon, it's making you think that you're getting a lot of these whole food ingredients given the order of the label, when in reality, this core nutrient blend is mostly this and very little of this. Now, just to make sure I'm clear, my problem with this label and company overall is that they are implying that you are getting a generous helping of fruits and veggies when you consume one of these 20 gram snack packs. And you're definitely not. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How do you know? How do you really know that there's very little of anything in this core nutrient blend? How does anyone really know anything? Through experience. Yes, I tried a few years ago to get dark leafy greens inside of a gummy. I used a very good formulator in the US to do so. And the results were extremely disappointing. It didn't work very well. Specifically, we were able to get 150 milligrams of these dark leafy greens inside a 3.5 gram gummy. It is just over 4%. 150 milligrams is okay for a vitamin C product, but 150 milligrams of whole food veggies, even dehydrated ones, is not gonna get anyone excited. All right, so essentially what we had, what we made was a gummy. It was just a gummy, high sugar, that happened to have trace veggies in it. So no one was gonna get excited about this, or at least I wouldn't have been excited about a product that was high sugar, low nutrition, and high price. Let's continue. How is this analysis of these gummy bears going to work exactly? Well, what I'm going to do is take these gummy bears, this product, and I'm going to boil them, sadly. I'm going to boil them until the gelatin and whatever else this gummy matrix is made of becomes fully soluble in water, a homogenized substance, if you will. I will then take that liquid, that homogeneous substance, and I will pass it through 25 micron filter paper using a vacuum filtration setup. This paper, with extremely small pores, will allow the soluble parts of this gummy matrix to pass through, and it will collect the parts of the core nutrient blend that are not soluble, or at least suspend in water momentarily, which should be most of the core nutrient blend. Now, this will not be perfect. There will be other things that come out of the core nutrient blend, or just the gummy in general, that do not pass through. But this will give us a good working range, an approximation, if you will, of how much of this core nutrient blend is actually in the gummy. Okay? Shall we proceed? We shall. The first thing I want to do, the first test I want to give these gummies, if you will, is see if the serving size listed on the label is actually the serving size included in the snack pack. It's an extremely simple quality test. Typically, you would expect to see an actual serving size be at least what's on the label, and oftentimes more. And right off the bat, we're off to a rough start. These gummies come in at just over 19 grams, certainly short of the 20 gram listed serving size. All right, now the sad part. I am going to prepare these gummies for their demise. If they are in any way alive, I certainly hope that they aren't aware of the beaker of water that is slowly coming to a boil on this Fisher Sci hot plate. And if they are aware, well, it's too late. By the way, I always feel like these hot plates take way too long to heat up, but what are you gonna do? If it's ever discovered that gummy bears can actually feel pain, then I am definitely going to be canceled. Let me go ahead and show you what I have here. On the left are the eviscerated gummy bears, and the right is the filter paper that will be used to pass the mix through. These are Wattman 47mm 25 micron filter discs, and here is my rocker vacuum pump. It gets down to about 150 inbar, more than enough to pull the solution through the filter discs. And here is my continuous Buchner funnel with magnetic vessel attachment. I got this from Sterilitech, and it's a pretty amazing little continuous filtration apparatus. And now we put the wet filter paper on the vessel, close it up, and we're ready to get started. Now this is a very simple setup I have going here. Essentially, the things I am looking for, i.e. the fruit and vegetable listed on this label as a part of the core nutrient blend, they are the least soluble ingredients within the gummy and are going to have the highest chance of getting trapped on the filter paper. And in case it wasn't already obvious, the vacuum pulls the liquid through the filter paper just like a coffee filter. The grounds, or in our case, a significant portion of the fruit and vegetables within the core nutrient blend, should get stuck. Doing this, while effective, can be a bit tedious. I have to get every piece of filter paper wet before I begin the filtration process, and then once I start, I usually can only get about 25 ml of liquid through the filter before the paper starts to clog and filtration slows to a snail's pace. I've learned the hard way that once the paper starts to lag, you just dump your unfiltered liquid back into the beaker and start over. The most effective way I have found to do this is to let as much of the core nutrient blend and whatever else is in the gummy matrix that isn't really soluble, just let it settle to the bottom. Then I proceed by decanting the liquid very slowly until it's all been passed through. At the end, you start to see filter paper that looks like this. Now, the way I'm going to evaluate what actually came out, or what portion of the CNB was actually trapped on the filter paper, is just basic drying and weighing. That is, I'll dry the filter paper, then weigh it against clean filter paper and determine a final output. So what I have here is a basic greens juice powder. Okay, pause the experiment. Okay, in order for our experiment to have a meaningful conclusion, we need something that we can compare our result to, a benchmark, if you will, or what we in the supplement industry like to call a reference standard. So, here is my lovely wife, mother of my children.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, babe, hold on 1 second, okay?
Explaining to you what a reference standard is.
A reference standard is simply a known, trusted example you use to test accuracy. For example, if you wanted to measure vitamin C in a product, you would first test a sample that contains a known amount of vitamin C. That becomes your benchmark. It's similar to putting a 10-pound weight on a new scale, just to make sure that the weight's correct. That's what my husband's doing with this gummy analysis, using a known amount of greens powder. No, not that one. That one's too nice. Yeah, that one. He's using that as a reference so he can estimate how much of the fruits and vegetables the filtration process can actually pull from the gummies.
Mom.
Gotta go. I'm being summoned.
It's highly soluble in water, however, will suspend if given time, and is extremely representative of our core nutrient blend in that all the fruits and vegetables in the CNB, in their current form, will behave roughly like this powder when put into solution. So then, I'm going to put a known amount of greens juice powder, GJP for short, into water. I'm going to then ensure that the GJP and water become homogenized, and finally, I'll take a sample as before and run the exact same process I did with the gummy solution. Specifically, to make things easier on myself, I am adding 2 grams of greens juice powder to 1200 ml of water. That means a 300 ml sample, the same amount we use for our gummy, should contain close to half a gram of greens juice powder, or 500 milligrams. After I run the filtration process, I dry the GJP filter paper, and then when I go to weigh these, I will be able to have a known reference of how much this process in general can expect to get out of solution. I can then use that information as a reference standard for the gummy solution. I know that might be a little confusing, but when I weigh both gummy and the greens juice powder filter paper out here in a second, I'll show you the math and it will all make sense. Okay, now it's time to evaluate our results, and this, in my opinion, is where it starts to get fun. As previously stated, we want to know what amount of the core nutrient blend, stated as 8.67 grams, are these whole food fruits and veggies. And I implied this earlier, but I didn't really state it explicitly. But the Fiber Smart listed as part of the core nutrient blend should mostly pass through the filter paper, meaning that what's on the filter paper should be roughly the fruits and veggies. All right, first up, we weigh the gummy retentate, or the filter paper that contains the insoluble aspects of the gummy. Now, given that I used 12 pieces of filter paper to capture the gummy, I need to make sure that 12 pieces of filter paper aren't weighed in the results. So before we put the used gummy filter paper on the scale, we put 12 clean pieces of filter paper on and then tare it. That ensures we aren't overcounting. And now for the gummy filter paper. Close to 0.4 grams. So right now, we can say that we pulled 0.4 grams or about 400 milligrams out of the gummy. Once again though, there are absolutely soluble aspects of the fruits and veggies that escaped the filter paper, and we need to account for that using our reference standard. So next, we weigh the GJP filter paper. This is how we establish our reference standard. And after accounting for the 8 pieces of clean filter paper, it would appear that we pulled about 0.18 grams of the GJP. Now, we know what we started with. We started with about a half a gram, and so if we captured 180 milligrams of 500 milligrams, that means that our filtration process can capture about 36% of whole food fruits and veggies in solution. Thus, these 400 milligrams from our gummy solution, they would represent about 36% of the total fruits and veggies from the core nutrient blend, meaning that our calculation would show just over a gram of fruits and veggies per snack pack, which means this gummy is exactly what I said it was. Not a greens gummy, but a regular vitamin gummy that happens to have some greens in it. Now, in my opinion, just over a gram is the absolute most you're going to find in one of these snack packs of fruits and vegetables, and that is being very generous, I think. Remember, there are other things in this gummy that would have likely been trapped on the filter paper, pectin, natural flavors, colorings, and those would have contributed to the final weight. Regardless though, forget that. I want you to look at these pictures. I took these pictures during the process in the same size beakers at comparable times in the process of the greens juice powder and the gummy solution. And these pictures give you a real visual sense of the difference. All right? Remember, the most that was in the greens juice powder solution, the most was half a gram, 500 milligrams. When you look at these, which one looks to have more? Clearly the greens juice powder looks to have more, all right? That gives you a visual sense of the differences. Regarding the amount of fruits and vegetables in this core nutrient blend, there is one more thing I'd like to show you. You remember earlier when I mentioned that my US-based formulator could get about 150 milligrams of greens into a 3.5 gram gummy. That equates to just under 4.3%. Well, I would like you to observe this other greens gummy made for another very well-known US-based supplement company, not naming any names. Specifically though, I want you to look at their label where it says this: made in an FDA registered and GMP certified facility. You will understand why that's important in just a moment. For now, look at the label. It's claiming 255 milligrams of greens per 2 gummy serving. Each gummy weighs about 3.5 grams. That means it's getting roughly 127 milligrams of greens to each 3.5 gram gummy. That's about 3.6%, okay? That's what it's getting. Now, given this label, the analysis we've already done, as well as these pictures, I'm going to estimate that these snack packs, these gummies, contain about 3/4 of a gram per snack pack. Call it 770 milligrams. All right? This is not a greens gummy. It is a vitamin gummy that happens to contain trace amount of greens, selling for a very high price. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but if I were, I think I've made a pretty strong case against ever going anywhere near these gummies with your wallet. However, why not just pile on a little bit more? I want to show you some other greens gummies that look remarkably similar to this one. Let's take a look, shall we? First up, Exhibit A, Greens Daily. That's the name of the product, by the way. I have no idea what the name of the company is. You'll note similar color scheme, marketing language, comprehensive nutrition. Look at the labels though, let's compare the labels. The only major differences between these labels, they are nearly identical, is that the popular greens gummy we've been looking at contains carrot and tapioca fiber in its core nutrient blend, and the ordering of beet and barley grass on the Greens Daily is slightly different order. Otherwise, they are the same. The core nutrient blend is identical down to the milligram. Also of note, Greens Daily contains about a gram of vitamin A, and that's enough to kill about 15 people. I want to be careful with that one. Next up, Exhibit B, Greens Daily Gummies. Again, similar color scheme, marketing, comprehensive nutrition. This time though, the labels are truly identical. Word for word, ordering, everything. The only difference is that Greens Daily Gummies does not have organic in front of its ingredients on the core nutrient blends. Otherwise, identical. Finally, I want to direct your attention to Supergreens. No need to look at the similar marketing and color scheme as before. Just look at this peculiar fact on their label. Their serving size is 15 grams, yet each serving size contains 15 grams of carbohydrates and the same amount of core nutrient blend, 8,670 milligrams. This company has somehow managed to beat the law of conservation of mass, and no one is talking about it. Unbelievable. So what's going on here? Why are there supposedly a bevy of identical greens gummy products out there that have the exact same formula as the company we've been looking at? Well, these are all Chinese companies, and if I had to make an educated guess, what's happening here is the greens gummy company we're looking at, they are having their product, their gummies, fully manufactured in China. Their Chinese co-man is then taking their formula and selling it to cheap Chinese knockoffs, because that's what they do over there. And you're seeing it all over Amazon. You might be thinking, well, then why don't we see this with other US-based supplement companies? Well, even though there are a ridiculous amount of Chinese ingredients coming into this country used in US supplements, by the way, that's another topic for another day. Another video all on its own, another day. Even though that's happening, those other US companies at least have the decency to take those ingredients and have them put together, blended, made into a final product by a US-based co-manufacturer. And so China wouldn't have their formula, but in this case, they do. And look what's happening. You have no idea what is in this product. If I had to bet, half of the ingredients on the core nutrient blend would not pass standard US identity testing. I don't have a dog, but if I did, I wouldn't feed them this hot garbage, let alone to my wife and kids. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've taken something from it as always. I think that's it for today. Until next time, take care.
Hi, welcome to Whataburger. Could I get a name for the sweater?
Wes?
All right, Wes, what can I get for you today?
Yeah, hi there. Could I do a large order of fries? Let's see, 2 chicken biscuits. How about just can you do a couple of patty melts then?
Yes, I can. Any drinks?
Could I do a small chocolate milkshake? Actually, let's do 2 medium chocolate milkshakes, please.
All right. Anything else I can get for you?
That will do it.
That'll be 3286. Your second one?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good one. That wasn't me. Besides, even if it was, you have no proof.
Hey dude, you forgot this in the car.
Thanks, babe.